Dive into the Lead Machine Growth Show as we uncover Sara. Oh, is it Roccisano? Is that correct, Sara?
That's correct.
Oh,
Roccisano.
okay. Let's start over. Dive into the Lead Machine Growth Show as we uncover Sara Roccisano's transformative leap from a 2-decade finance career to spearheading Emboldened adventures. Experience her tale of resilience, navigating job upheavals and self-discovery to ultimately embracing the entrepreneur's journey. Sara's narrative is a testament to turning challenges into triumphs, guiding her from established corporate roles to pioneering her passion-fueled enterprise.
This episode of the Lead Machine Growth Show is brought to you by Lead Machine, the step-by-step, tech-easy system for getting leads online. Are you struggling to get leads from your lead magnet? Are you tired of seeing low conversion rates and losing potential customers? It's time to revive your lead magnet and start attracting more leads. Download our free report, 10 Deadly Lead Magnet Mistakes That Are Costing You Leads, and learn how to create a high-converting lead magnet that engages your audience and drives conversions. Don't let common mistakes hold you back any longer. Revive your lead magnet today and download your free report at www.getleadmachine.com/deadly. Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where you will discover how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Paul Guyan, the mastermind behind the Lead Machine, introduces you to trailblazers who inspire you to implement life-changing solutions and systems you can model to nurture your leads and get your offers seen by your ideal clients who will invest in themselves and you. Be sure you visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, tune in and get ready to transform your vision into reality.
Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyan, your host, Lead Machine coach, and founder of the Lead Machine Mastermind. I'm dedicated to helping you tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Whether you're just starting out or taking your business to the next level, let's get this conversation started and turn your dreams into reality. Today, we're joined by Sara Roccisano, who embodies our creed, tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream. Her journey is from corporate stability to entrepreneurial freedom is a beacon of those daring to venture into business ownership, demonstrating the power of aligning your career and one's calling. Sara is the founder of Emboldened Adventures, is a former finance and renewable energy professional who turned her globe-trotting passion into a thriving business. With over 20 years in high-stakes industries, her transition to a digital entrepreneurship showcases her ability to tackle the technology, innovate, and inspire. Her website, emboldenadventures.com, serves as a hub for travel enthusiasts and reflects Sara's journey of spiritual awakening and self-discovery across more than 42 countries. As she prepares to publish her first of 3, travel memoir, she continues to encourage others to embark on their adventures, proving that with courage and curiosity, every path can lead to new horizons. So welcome, Sara. Thank you so much for coming today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Paul. It's a
So
pleasure.
I was reading your bio, and there was a bit of a, like we said, upheaval. There was kind of a bold departure that you made. It took a couple of tries, but what was the thing that made you dramatically walk away from that high stakes career?
Oh, it was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. I think it has been a long time coming of feeling as if this isn't working anymore. 20 years of, intense kind of work that I was doing on Wall Street and private equity and growing in the renewable energy business. The final straw was ultimately a conference call, and it was something where I had been working in my tiny, 800 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment in New York City, remotely, from 2020 when the pandemic shut everything down to 2022, nonstop. And it was something that was, kind of innocuous, but it just felt like things were just unshaky. And there was a little bit of of a nice thing that wasn't nicely said on a conference call as I was presenting, and it caught me off guard, and I didn't really think it was a nice move. So, I took it in stride. I had the pregnant pause and I let it kind of sit. And then once the presentation I was giving was over, with all the senior leadership, I had a conversation with my manager, and I felt like that just wasn't a nice move. And that's when I hit that breaking point where I basically say, I surrender. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't like the bad behavior. I don't like the toxicity. I don't like the thankless job and the hours that just are too much. And I declared to the gods, I said, I'm going to write a book. I had no plan. But as the universe kind of let the path unfold in front of me, I went on many adventures, but I went on kind of an extended adventure in 2022 to where I am today, walking away from a 20-year career and about to be a published author any day now. So I also have taken it to the next step of being an international public speaker, and I've ramped up my Emboldened Adventures passion project into something more, a true business here as an entrepreneur.
Nice. And so it was that was the pinpoint. That moment was the straw that broke the camel's back. And so, weren't you scared?
No.
No.
I wasn't scared because, when you kind of hit your breaking point, you feel like you just have to make this choice. This is the choice that feels right, despite the risks, despite the odds. Because, like I said, it was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. It had been many, many years of just, fits and starts, ebb and flow, feeling, the disconnect and just feeling, unappreciated. I had gone through 3 rounds of layoffs in this time of my career, one of which was a 2.5-year period of unemployment. And I had held down my own apartment by myself as my own breadwinner. And it was pretty dicey. It was a really tough, situation to be in between the years of 2015 and mid 2017. So, and then I lost my job again in 2019. But at this point, it was a little bit of a shorter period between landing my job in 2020. But, just being in these sort of industries for so long, it was something that I had gone through this 3 times of job insecurity and job loss
Mhm.
that, at this point I could do this and I don't need to continue to push this boulder up the hill to have it constantly crashing down on me again. It's not working. It's time to step up and move on.
Yeah. And so that's kind of a shock. I mean, some people plan, they say, okay, I'm going to be here for another year and a half. And of course, sometimes those plans get thwarted, but this is my backup plan. I got a side hustle going. I'm going to do this, and these are who I'm going to serve, and I'm going to do these kinds of things. You didn't really have that, did you? Or was
I
the
had
passion for the travel that
I
was
had
appealing to
I
you?
had the strength. I had the internal strength. As I said, I've built this up over many years of being in between jobs and having job insecurity and constantly trying to hustle to find the next gig as a new kind of addition to my LinkedIn profile, right? And my traditional resume and growing my deal list, for instance.
Uh-huh.
So, I had that in me of like, origination and trying to get a new opportunity and growing deals. Being in the renewable energy industry as an OG, I'd like to say, because I got in as an early entrant. It is an industry that has a lot of inertia and a lot of, kind of resistance to change because traditional energy markets are very strong and highly subsidized. So when you want to make change in industries, you have to kind of have this growth mindset and this resilient push. And
Yeah.
so that is something I've kind of cultivated throughout my 20 plus years, especially also working in male dominated industries for so long. I had a degree in engineering undergrad and I got my MBA in finance at a top institution. And I've worked in, Wall Street, finance, very energy. These are all a government consulting. These are all, traditionally male industries. So as a female, you also learn a thing or two about how to carve your path and how to be resilient and tough. So for me, walking away and saying no more was actually quite easy at that
Oh.
point.
So what was your vision from that point forward, and what did you do to survive? Was there something that you had already going, or did you have to create something from scratch?
Create something from scratch. At this point, I already had the wherewithal and the idea to know how to save and to know
Uh-huh.
how to have a
Right.
cushion and to know to, as they call it, excuse my French, but FU money, right? Like you have to have some sort of cushion to allow for yourself to thrive and grow and
Yeah.
really step away from an institution. Because if we continue to allow ourselves to be so tethered to something that takes away our agency and gives us a sense of no, kind of growth, right? We're just kind of showing up every day and working for the man, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
know that you have more to you than that, and there's more joy, and you could really start to discover deeply who you are by taking deeper risks, that is a power in itself. That's empowerment. And
Mhm.
and I think once we have that kind of little fire lit in us and within us, and we want to kind of test the waters, you can't, you'd be surprised how far you could ultimately go by
Yeah.
kind of starting to swim away from the shore.
Gotcha. And so what happened next? What was your first step when you said, okay, now I'm free. I've stepped away from this thing. I'm going to put that behind me. I've got this passion. What is that passion, and what was the next step?
So we're talking January 2022 at this point. And a lot of this discovery I've been doing is a spiritual discovery, a connection to nature, working with shamans and, medicine workers and wisdom keepers indigenously around the world. So for me as a world traveler for so long, seeing what the world has to offer beyond the traditional, beyond the mainstream, has been a great guidance for me. So what I did when I basically surrendered, I took the 3-month leave of absence. And I decided to go on a women's retreat in California where I connected deeply with, the mountain energy of Yosemite and the power of the ocean, of the Pacific Ocean, and, all these sort of transformative elements that nature provides, like the metamorphic butterfly and the humpback whale that's resting. And for me, I went into the redwood forest with a women's retreat and really found my kind of true power within me. And that was one of many different stories. This is going to be part 2 of my travel adventure memoir that's coming out. But I was discovering, and in that 3-month period, I did a lot of discovery. And then I finally decided that I'm not going to come back. This is something that I decided I want to write a book. I'm going to give it a shot. And I really believe that the universe doesn't like voids. So when you make a bold statement to clear the path, or clear any sort of hindrances that are in your life, the universe fills it with something better. And in my case, I didn't have a game plan. I just said, I think I'm going to write a book. And I said, I'll just kind of let it kind of flow and let it figure out for me. And in this kind of process, all my great people were coming for me. So I'm self-publishing, and I decided to gift myself time to put my head down and work through it. And it's such a great story. I really am enjoying the process. But generally speaking, though, the plan kind of is unfolding as I go, just as I had been doing in originating deals, right? Like, you don't know ultimately how it's going to work itself out. You just got to trust the process.
Yeah, and that requires some faith too, doesn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you've been traveling around the world all along. So tell us about that. How
Oh,
did
it's
that
been a
start?
joy.
How did that start? Were
Where
you a little girl when you first took a trip, or how'd that go?
So I guess my first trip ever was in high school. My parents took us to the Bahamas, and I had got bitten by the scuba diving bug. I got kind
Oh.
of that resort, scuba diving
Hmm.
certification, which was quite awesome. And I've always had a love, and I think this is an important kind of aha. Like, you kind of gravitate towards your passions of what you
Hmm.
really loved as a child. And in my case, I was so fascinated about ancient Egypt, and I was so fascinated about sharks. And so for me, like, scuba diving got me around the world, and it was my kind of elixir, or sort of my balance for the really intense kind of work life I had in my 20s and 30s. So, I revisited being scuba certified by the time I was finished up with my MBA program. I was getting my MBA while I was working full time as an investment banker. So I had 2.5 years of intensity on both sides, going to school on the weekends at NYU, and then also working at a top tier investment bank globally. And so once that kind of finished in 2008, because I was at that time a financial institutions investment banker. So the financial crisis that was happening
Yeah.
just had started right when I got my last class into the books in August. So Lehman Brothers collapsed.
Hmm.
Bank of America was taking on Merrill Lynch. AIG was getting taken over by the Fed. There was a lot going on in my world back then.
Yeah.
And then once that kind of like settled, I decided I was going to get scuba certified for real. And that really opened the door for diving, that then opened the door for really leveling up my travel adventures.
So that's really cool. Are you, do you know who Jacques Cousteau is?
I love Jacques Cousteau.
The Undersea World Adventures of Jacques Cousteau. I'm um I'm a longtime lover of Jacques Cousteau, and when I was in fourth grade, I discovered in the library that we had a book called The Undersea World or something like that, and it's still in print, and I found it online one day. But I was so enamored with skin diving and scuba diving and just the whole history and the aqualung and everything that he did. I've been following him for years and got the bug for scuba diving when I was a teenager. And actually at 12, I went to get a certification. And the only thing is that I couldn't get the final dive checkout because my parents weren't willing to invest in all that comes along with it because gear is expensive, even renting it. And they didn't think I was going to be serious at 13 or 12. And I think that's when I really departed on my dark side. But anyway, I did eventually go scuba diving and just loved it. And then I found that I really had trouble with clearing my eustachian tubes and, get about 33 feet. And, if you can't clear your ears, you can't go any deeper. And that's the whole thing, is to be able to explore. So I didn't feel the freedom that I thought I would had, that I dreamed of for all that time. But I always wanted to go
Oh,
to the Caymans and to do some sea scuba. I do snorkel. I used to snorkel in the bathtub when I was 11 or 12, which is fun. But no, I've done some snorkeling. But that's I saw that on your website and I went, wow, I have to ask her about Jacques Cousteau. He's just amazing.
I have two stories about Jacques Cousteau. And by the way,
Oh yeah.
I love how you are loving scuba diving, and I hope that one day it can be something for you because I know what you mean. Ear troubles are not easy. And I
Yeah.
learned that I take Sudafed preemptively on the boat, like I'll pop a pill and then
Uh-huh.
I'll go down kind of on a diagonal
Yeah.
with my head first, and you start kicking. And that's how I'm learning to clear my ears. But yeah, once you can't
Oh.
clear your ears, I actually had that problem when I was a first diver. I had blood, vessels bursting. It was not a pretty sight and it was very uncomfortable. So yeah, you got to be very careful about your ears. But
Yeah.
as it pertains to Jacques Cousteau, I got to dive Alcyon, which is his
Oh,
site where he saw the schools of hammerhead sharks at Cocos Island off Costa Rica. So it
yeah.
was one of his favorite dive sites, Alcyon, he named it, and that's one of my top dives ever. And I just feel really like blessed to be like in the grace of where he was exploring, and that's just something I just love. And then nearby Manuelita, that dive site by the rock, it was when I saw my tiger shark for the first time, which was super awesome.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was pretty cool. Cocos Island is the last 2% of pristine oceans in the world. It's
Hmm.
360 nautical miles off the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. So that was a 10-day adventure on a dive boat. And this is why I go diving, is because I wanted to get away from the office and just kind of recharge my batteries through electromagnetic properties of the water and feeling
Yeah.
neutrally
Huh.
buoyant. It's very meditative, and it really helps you kind of get your sixth sense, more attuned to what's around you. It was a beautiful experience. It'll go up as one of my blog posts eventually if I get when I get around to it.
Well, I'll have
But
to
the se
follow that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you a copy when I get to it, hopefully soon. But I will, though, say the other story about Jacques Cousteau, and you can read this on my upcoming book.
Mhm.
I just finished writing chapter 22, and my story takes the reader to Tiwanaku and Pumapuku, which is off the shores of Lake Titicaca on the Bolivia
Mhm.
side in South America. Yeah. So they found, I mean, it's a very, very interesting place. Speaking of electromagnetic, like I felt kind of these rocks are cut in a very curious way, almost like laser-like precision. And there was some sort of
Hmm.
cataclysmic event that had covered this whole area. It was once an advanced civilization, they think. It's featured on Ancient Aliens. It's a very, very incredible
Huh.
place. And they think way back when the shores of Lake Titicaca had been up to the Pumapuku Gate. Pumapuku stands for Puma's Gate. And there was this just really enormous rock andesite gate that was kind of constructed and now since destroyed. But they found in the 60s, Jacques Cousteau actually came to
Yeah.
Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, and
Yeah.
they found an underwater evidence of an ancient civilization underwater that he dove. And then that encouraged other divers, teams of divers from Europe, I think Belgium and Italy, to then start extracting the remnants of what was there. They found lots of gold and lots of other things. And then there's a story like the Bolivian government took it over, and we don't really know a lot more since then. But it's called the island or Sun Island on the Bolivian side of Lake Titicaca, and
Oh.
so Jacques Cousteau is quite interested in diving freshwater Lake Titicaca, the highest altitude freshwater lake in
You
all of the
you
world.
beat me to the punchline because I was just going to mention that I did a report on Lake Titicaca when I was in elementary school because of Jacques Cousteau and his grouper. He says the grouper, these big, huge fish that are indigenous there, and it's a freshwater lake, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm glad we're talking about it. Say the
Wow.
power of travel. And this is what happened when I lost my job in 2019. I opened the book with me, I was working down on in the Wall Street area in downtown Manhattan. And here I am leaving the elevator, daring the universe that I wasn't going to get laid off. But sure enough, the universe answered the call and kind of pulled the rug out from under me. Surprisingly, I was last on that list. And so what happened was I was already going to Morocco for a bachelorette party, but I was able to tack on a trip to the Amazon rainforest in Peru to work with the Shipibo shamans. So I did
Oh,
7 ayahuasca ceremonies with them. It was a perfectly timed experience because my friend was already going to go and I joined her. And then on the tail end of that experience, which was just completely transformational, I went to Lake Titicaca in Peru.
did you
The
dive?
No, we didn't get a chance to dive,
Oh,
but we did get to explore. We even saw the Nazca lines down by Ica and Nazca in southern Peru. So that's what this book is about, my first travel adventure memoir. It's like this story of kind of immense transformation, stepping away from the world of Wall Street. But the reality is, though, that I came back to a world that was transforming right in front of me, New York City coronavirus, early March 2020. So
yep.
here was 5 weeks away, completely removed from society, completely being transformed in a new way, coming home to a world that was closing down. So that's ultimately those 2 years of, working from home in this new job I had that led me to that kind of surrender in 2022. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. Um, so how did you cultivate the confidence to trust your instincts? I mean, you mentioned spirituality and shamans and the power of the universe and the power of nature. Uh, is there a higher power also that you're tapping into?
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I don't want to preach. That's one thing that I'm learning more and more is it's a personal discovery. And I'm not
Uh-huh.
one to say I'm right. I just know what feels right for me. And the more and more I continue to trust through my own journey and working with these healers and wisdom keepers from around the world, really nature is my savior. And in that period of time, I was going a lot of trips. I was doing a lot of walking in the woods and just kind of connecting with self in solace, in solitude, and travel teaches you that, when you're in places around the world. When we were in Bolivia after Lake Titicaca, we ended up going to the salt flats of Uyuni. And then we went over to very southern part of Bolivia in the Andes Mountains that's near the Atacama Desert. And the silence, because there's nobody there.
Hmm.
When you start to see how beautiful the world really can be and right in front of your eyes, and you're so far removed from your stupid, connection to the office, who cares about that email at this point? There's something so transcendental about connecting with something so spiritually enriching, whether it's Yosemite, the power of El Capitan, or, I do a lot of work with my friend who lives out in MHA Nation in North Dakota, and being out in the Dakotas and seeing just the blanket of stars out in the sky, it's immense. So you can't help but start to think, there's something immensely and infinitely more powerful that's so loving. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the concept that I believe in, is this concept called pronoia, not paranoia, but pronoia, which means that the universe is working in your favor. Paranoia means the universe is out to get you.
Yeah.
So I've kind of shifted. I've done a lot of spiritual work, especially in between jobs, which is where my true power has come from, is because you start to really believe and trust and have a mindset shift that things are going to work out in your favor if you take if you take the risk and believe in the unknown and believe in your true self and your, kind of internal compass. And you mentioned the beacon, right? It's something that just feels right. And it's a muscle you build over time. It's not something you just snap your fingers and say, sure, this is how it's going to be. It's an ongoing experience for yourself and an ongoing test of faith. And so that's why it was very easy for me to say, I'm done. I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm completely done. I'm not dealing with this. I don't want to deal with bad behavior. I don't want to deal with these people. I don't want to deal with this bad attitudes. I'm done. My, lack of, consideration and not really caring about the work I just put in. This is stupid. There's something more to life than just this. And that's really why it was very easy for me to say no more.
Yeah, I like the connection to the you mentioned I believe you mentioned Native Americans. Isn't that what you said? And I have
Yes.
a Native American heritage also. And
Oh
they
yeah?
are
What
yeah, yeah,
what's your heritage?
Chippewa, Ojibwa.
Ah, Ojibwe. Oh,
Yeah,
oh, really? Ooh, the Turtle Island story. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Ah, very cool. There's a saying in my book, chapter 3, I have an Ojibwe saying, which is what was in The Sopranos. Tony Soprano was in like the hospital, and it was something about a great wind that, you have trust in the great wind that takes you. It's
Ah,
beautiful.
ah.
Ojibwe. Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
my youngest son is learning, actually speaks the language, and he's really into our heritage.
That's beautiful.
Probably more so than I. But the comment I was going to make was that connection with nature is a sacred connection, and the higher power uh, created that for us to enjoy, and we spend so much time in the digital realm and with our phones in our faces, and we don't respect and we don't take care of and we don't notice the beauty around us, even in your backyard. I mean, it's brown here in Michigan. uh it's trying to be spring. It's actually is spring as of last week. uh so the buds are starting to come up, but we had snow over the weekend, and it was going to be 60 degrees today. It's crazy, but that's the cycle of how things work. And so I'm glad that you appreciate that, and the just the whole travel and seeing all this different cultures and different. I think you're in tune with the spaces, the wide open spaces, which is I'm also really inspired by that. So that's
That's
really cool.
beautiful. And I love that we're talking about this because I'm realizing I'm outgrowing New York, the concrete, the heaviness, the hecticness, the energy just doesn't feel right for me. And my third book that I'm writing, so essentially this trilogy is Awake and Radiate, Surrender and Adventure, which is the story of me kind of putting my hands up in my kitchen saying, I'm done, I'm going to go on this adventure. And then Transform and Reborn. So that's this story right now. I just came back from Guatemala, a very powerful place called Lake Atitlan with the power of the volcanoes and the spiritual vortex of the lake. And the indigenous Mayan women, the medicine women I worked with, their lineage goes back way back in time before the Spanish came to Central America. And so we worked with the women, and I went into the Temescal and I did a lot of healing and transformation there. I did a YouTube video on it just recently on Emboldened Adventures YouTube channel. And in
Oh,
there, I talk about my story of like surrender and like feeling so like not right in this world that I was just in for my career for so long. And I say a statement. I say, I have so much experience in renewable energy, but nature taught me more than I knew, right? Renewable energy didn't teach me anything about the wisdoms of nature. Going out there and working with the wisdom keepers did. And so I mean that because, you really do appreciate what you have, the trees and the importance of the eco cycle and all this stuff. How do we really like protect our resources and really love our land and appreciate it? You do that by traveling, you do that by going through hard times, you do that by like realizing how important, this sort of nature we live in is, because if we ruin it, we're in trouble. And
yeah,
it's just not going to work in the world I was in. It just didn't have that element and that appreciation and respect.
yeah. And I live out in the sort of out in the country. It's a little place called Kingsley, which is Paradise Township. So it's a little slice of paradise, and it's in northern Michigan. So I grew up in the Detroit area in Michigan, and so I 40 years ago I had to move away from that. And I'm so glad that I did. And there was a lot more opportunity financially back then. And I was in IT. I've been in IT for 40 years in marketing, and so there's a lot of opportunity. But when I came up here for a visit, and then I drove home, and I went the long way home, and just seeing the lakes and the hills and the I said, oh man, I have to live here. You know, and it was, it's ended up to be a great career for me, and a great move, and my wife and my kids and all that. That's great. So sometimes you just have to follow that. So I'm
That's right.
interested. You mentioned a YouTube channel, and I've got people who listen who are probably interested in how your YouTube channel is going, and what you do to communicate with your people. Because I assume that you've got followers and people are following you, and you're connecting with, and you're doing public speaking. Tell us about the business side of this adventure that you're on.
Yeah.
There's
So
more
when
than
I
the
was
book, I know, right?
There's more than the book, correct.
Yeah.
I'm figuring it out as we go because Emboldened Adventures was a passion project of mine when I was in
Mhm.
kind of my period of darkness, as I call it, in that 2.5 years of unemployment in my apartment in New York City. And it just, it was a very hard time for me. But I'm transforming everything I learned into, the motivational speaking side now. I literally just had a speech to my alma mater at Cornell talking about how to navigate layoffs and how to thrive using essentially that experience I had.
Yeah.
So Emboldened Adventures was birth. It was a creative project that got me kind of out of the doldrums. And I just love travel. It's my passion. And so since I've surrendered, I'm kind of in this like I'm gonna level this up now. And so I'd love to have followers. I'm kind of, I'm a micro influencer at this point, but you
Mhm.
can reach me on YouTube and go on all the various social media channels. I have great plans to kind of step this up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to think about starting to bring some adventure travel into the mix and with a transformational component. So I just got my transformational travel certification. So the intent is to embolden people, kind of help build up their courageous muscles here to get them to want to see the world. And it's not like, let's go to so and so, kind of rinky-dink place. It's no, let's figure out how to get to Nepal. Let's then work with, these sort of wisdom keepers from around the world. Let's be really like attuned to the land, and let's see how this really kind of awakens something within you and then feel transformed for yourself. So that's what the intent of Emboldened Adventures is going to be. And in that with the books and merchandise and other sort of things to the speaking. So I'm in kind of like go mode right now to continue to evolve this. And I'm really excited where it's going to go. I have really great hopes for it, and I'm pretty proud of the progress I've made so far with it. This is all because I stepped away. I didn't have to deal with the
Yeah.
work world anymore.
Well, now you can do retreats.
Yes.
You can do like you said, spiritual awakening journeys. There's a lot of those kinds of things that like going to Portugal to Fatima, for instance, or to Lourdes, the religious uh, destinations, pilgrimages. That's what I'm saying, pilgrimages. So you could lead pilgrimages, and you could teach resilience. You could teach a lot of things, and you could introduce people to to the wisdom keepers, and the people that you've met and the places you've been, and have them experience those same things. You could do those, once a quarter, and you could build that up, and you could also book other speakers, hook up with Tony Robbins, have him come in and do some fire walking. There's all kinds of things that you can do, right?
That's the intent. And I
Yeah.
have so I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes and under the radar. So I have built up a pretty great network here of, go-getters and doers and brand people and lots of other things. So I'm basically starting from experience. I have the passion piece. I have the ability just from my other career that I've had in terms of like how to create things, how to,
Yeah.
build, equity in businesses, how to raise capital. There's all that. I mean, but I'm just a little travel influencer. But no, I have this huge career behind me to help leverage this to the next level. So that's my intent here, and I'm really excited about it. I just need to button up the chapter of New York City, which is kind of slowly dragging its feet. But once
Yeah.
that's done and put to bed, I'm ready to rock and roll.
Cool. So tell us about so you got a trilogy of a book, a book trilogy. You've got one coming out any time now. Tell us about that. And then what are your plans next?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's my 5-week adventure of walking away once I got my last time I was laid off from my job in 2019 and really going on this like epic adventure that really opened my eyes in a new way. From Morocco to the rainforest with the Shipibo shamans, onward to Bolivia, as I mentioned, and southern Peru, and coming home to New York. That was now becoming a changed place in 2020 from
Yeah.
coronavirus. So that's really the book. But it's the one part of the awake and radiate piece. Then there'll be the surrender and adventure piece that I talked about. And then we'll go ahead to the transform and reborn, which is like, I feel like right now where I am, what's today, 2020? Like, I'm kind of on like chapter 15 of this story right now. There's something else that's brewing that I can't wait to tell you about when it happens, but I think
Yeah.
you'd really love it. So that'll be the end of the
Awesome.
book for the transform and reborn part.
Oh,
This
cool.
June is what, hopefully, fingers crossed.
June coming out, and it's going to be
Mhm.
on your website as well as on Amazon, I assume, and
Correct.
wherever books are sold, hopefully,
Correct.
at some point. Let's see what else. We've talked about the core message. How about what else would you like our listeners to know before we wrap up?
I would love everyone to reach deep down within them and hear that soft, still voice in them. Don't feel like the world around you needs to push you around or boss you around or feel like they know better than you. Because ultimately, I think what life is about, why we're here, is really to kind of understand where our true power is and how to really understand our guiding light. And, once we can figure out, with baby steps, it's not easy how
Mhm.
to really kind of be courageous for yourself and really start to be that resilient, resolute kind of person, you'd be really surprised how far your life can go in extraordinary ways that are really unfathomable at the standing point you're at now. I mean, I'm a true testament of it. When you take risks and you decide you're going to choose me, choose yourself, right? You'd be surprised like how the world really opens up for you. Pronoia, it's something that's a beautiful gift.
Yes. Wow, Pronoia. And so as we wrap up then, what are three things that our listeners can do today to take this resilience and take this leap of faith and put some of these ideas into action that can enrich their lives like it's done with yours, obviously?
I encourage them to go for a long walk in the forest by themselves,
Hmm.
listen, just kind of take it all in and start to hear that inner peace within you. The second thing I would encourage if you really want to see the mysteries of the world, there's a place you always wanted to go, I'd say start looking into booking that trip. I think it's going to be very important for you because those experiences are something that never leave you. I always talk about how I saw a great white shark when I was in a shark cage. I'd rather talk about that than a deal that I closed, something that's going to stick with you forever. So those experiences of travel are critical, and I would encourage that for everybody. And I'd say the third thing is, start testing new things. Like if you feel like you want to be a writer, give it a shot. We're in an age now where the barriers to entry with things are no longer there. So, you can self-publish, you could become a speaker, you could just start talking on TikTok. We have all these camera phones at our fingertips. There's so
Yeah.
much you can do. And I literally got on a public speaking stage in a competition in September, and I'm on now my ninth speech. So I'm a testament of it. If you just want to do something, give it a shot and just don't care how it's going to happen. Like, who cares what people think? Just give it a shot and give it see how you grow from it.
Yeah, I think that's important to not care what other people think because I have always heard that what other people think of you is none of your business,
That's right.
right? And and what other people think and what you worry about is keeps you from taking that action and taking these three actions, which I think are that we should embrace. So
That's right.
Sara has a free gift. It's called it's the prologue of the upcoming book, right?
Yes.
So you can go get that at www.emboldenedadventures.com/book. That's www.emboldenedadventures.com/book. Subscribe and get a free gift, the prologue of her upcoming book.
That's right. I already have
Sounds
the
awesome.
title, but I have not shared it yet. But
Uh-oh.
yeah, if you subscribe to my subscribers, you'll be the first to know about the book and kind of the next steps for it. But
Okay.
I can't wait to talk more about it. It's so cool. It's such a great story.
Yep. And you can also reach out to her on emboldenedadventures.com. You can find her on social media. In the
Mhm.
show notes, there'll be links to her social profiles. You can look her up there. She's probably on Instagram and sharing all kinds of things, great things. So
Yeah.
about her journeys. So Sara, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm your host, Paul Guyan, and Sara, thank you so much. Roccisano, right?
That's
Yes.
right. Thank you for having me,
Thank
Paul.
you
It was
so
a
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure was mine.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.